spending your evening here with us. There will be humongous amount of collaboration tonight, and we have such a great speaker. But before we get started, this is about 4.5, 5 years of say that, hey, we want to hear a speaker, any speaker, but a particular topic. Sometimes it's IoT, sometimes it's artificial intelligence, sometimes it's Agile, and all about Agile trends and Agile leadership. So that's what this forum is all about, right? There's no marketing, nothing going on here. It's a pure opportunity to come together, mingle, get a lot of information, and utilize that information back at your desk. That's the purpose why we exist here. There's another one there right at the middle you see. It's job search. And if you're seeking jobs or you have some opportunities from your work for other people, you can note down your contact information or the opportunities that are available and where the candidates can contact you. And it's a matter of, people contacting each other for mutual business there. Key takeaways. This is another one which we love because, as and when you see an aha moment in your mind or a spark in your mind, like, oh my gosh, I had this problem all the time, and this is a great way to get it sorted out, right? It's a great solution in my mind. So that's your spark. That's the aha moment, and those are the key takeaways. Why do we collect all this information as we go? It's because it's an online forum. So when people go later on, some of you are lucky to reach here. Some of the other ones are still stuck in that traffic. And I really bet you there are a lot of people stuck in there. So that's the reason we want to help our friends who could not reach here with this recording, with those key takeaways. There are job opportunities and so on. So that helps them grow. So next time they come and maybe you don't reach here, they are going to help you out, right? That's the purpose. The other thing that we do right after the break is called a 3-minute lightning round, which means 3 people from this audience would come and talk only 3 minutes. And they share their Agile experience. It could be anything from their work, from their life, from their family, whatever Agile stuff that you're doing, you're excited about, or didn't get great experience with. Come share here for 3 minutes. Talking 3 minutes before you start, it's over, right? So, but it gives a great perspective for others who are listening to you, thinking, oh my gosh, I had this problem. I never thought someone else had the same problem. Right? And maybe you can network with them later, or you might be lucky, the person might talk about a solution to that problem too in those 3 minutes, right? So we're going to have 3 such lucky winners who would come here, introduce themselves. What do they get in return? More LinkedIn contacts from you, right? So that's the format overall. We start now. We stop at about 7:10-ish because we are a little late. We take a 15-minute break. After that, about 10 minutes of lightning round, and then we go back to the talk, and we'll try to end about 8 o'clock. Okay? So with that, tonight's speaker, I'm super excited about the speaker because he's a 20-year veteran to be in this industry. He started his journey, and now he is, he's been a traditional PMP, traditional project management type person. He's been managing multiple projects. He's been teaching as well. And now, for the last few years, he has been into Agile. And, he thinks that's his home now, right? So he's got a lot of experience. He's been an enterprise coach at multiple companies. He has been doing not just the regular team-sized Agile stuff. He has always been, he's been doing a lot of SAFe, which is the Scaled Agile framework for the enterprise. So he's been teaching on that front, which means how do not just the teams do Agile, but how do the organizations, gather themselves and be Agile. So with that, we're super excited to have Hung as our speaker. Welcome, Hung. Thank you. Good to have you here. I'd like you to introduce and provide more context to what you do, and then go from there to the topic.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anoop. Briefly, so I had a very, very good introduction from Anoop. Thank you so much. That's right on. That's basically summarized my experience, my journey here in the Bay Area. I worked for Sun Microsystems for a long time, and then Symantec, and then PG&E for quite some time. And also I'm doing some startups now myself. I will share along the way, not to talk about myself, but to put into the story. And the thing is this: if you have, I gather most of you are in software, am I correct? Just yeah. And so you will know, you will recognize a lot of things about software. Now, software is getting much more important. I'm not going to tell you what is important, what's not important. I'm just going to share data with you. And so with that, you will find out for yourself. Okay. Very good. So it's not so important what I cover here, although I made a lot of preparation for it. It's really what you discover along the way as we spend the evening together. First of all, everyone is going to get to play now in the software game, moving forward. A whole lot more than you would think. Okay? So I'm going to step back a couple of decades into the 70s. It started in the 60s, into the 70s. Back then, the single biggest software project, would you happen to know what that is at that time? It's the space shuttle. Okay. The space shuttle, I'm going to use this. I know it's not a very good metric. Lines of code is not a very good metric, but at that tremendous, at the numbers you'll see, it doesn't matter how rough it is. It will tell the story anyway. So the space shuttle done in the 60s through the 70s was 40 million lines of code. And then that as a calibration, and I'm going to share a number of other numbers after this. 40 million lines of code, and it took them, when they started out in the 60s and ended up in the 70s when the space shuttle was ready to start deploying, getting into operation, and go well into the 80s. By the time they deployed in the 70s, the technologies used were 60s technologies. Okay, so so that's a very key data point to realize. Nowadays, if you deploy anything with technology 10 years ago, you'll be fired. Your client will fire you. Your boss will fire you. It is not acceptable, no matter what. Okay, so that was a big accomplishment by then, as you realize. So with that as a calibration, I'm going to share a couple of data, and this is very well established. It's not even discovery. Let me go through this and let you guess. I will tell it, but I let you have a moment ahead of me and try to guess what, from smallest to largest, how many million lines of code these things are, and which one is the smallest. So, would you happen to guess which one is the lowest number of lines of code, the least complex? No guess. Any venture?
The car.
The car, okay. That's the Chevy Volt. So not quite. So the Raptor is actually the most advanced fighter plane of the U.S. Air Force. Okay. It's there is a the Russians have an equivalent, pretty much like to that. But this is the most advanced, fastest, the fiercest fighter, right? So of course with intelligence to go fight. 2 million lines of code. Okay. Next one, you're correct, is the Chevy Volt. Okay, came out in 2010, 2011. 10 million lines of code. It's the electric car from GM. And after that, any guess? The Boeing. So the Dreamliner came out as the single most electronic airplane ever built. Okay. When it came out, it was 8 million lines of code, actually less than Chevy Volt. To fly avionics, everything in order to fly was 8 million lines of code. Ever since then, they added more. Guess what they added? entertainment. Okay, that's a bunch of million lines of code. Okay, so now when you go fly, you know what that plane is loaded with your entertainment. That's how much code that is. Okay, and the next one is the Android. Okay, 12 million lines of code. What's next?
Mac.
The Mac. Oh, it's Facebook. So Facebook is about 60 million lines of code, 61 million lines of code. And the Mac OS, this is a couple of years ago, that's 80 million lines of code. Now, what you may not suspect is already an advanced car today is 100 million lines of code. Okay, and that's growing. And we are not talking, you probably have heard of autonomous driving cars and all these things. Not yet. None of that yet. This is just a high-end car today. Okay, so 100 million miles ago. This was surprising to me. I don't know if it's surprising to you. Maybe you're more Christian than me. So I would think people like Facebook or Apple have armies of software engineers and programmers to build out the code. But how about the cars? What do they have? Where do they get the software engineers? So that's you can see where I'm heading. Why software is so important for everybody all of a sudden. Okay, and we're going to try to discover the logic behind it. I have this. In fact, I gave everybody a card, and you have my slides. You don't need to take notes, and you have my slides, and you can go over them at your leisure. So the car has 150 ECUs, electronic control units. So it's basically a microprocessor. 150. I don't know if that surprised you. It did surprise me. The wiring is such that nowadays some cars have fiber optics, otherwise the data would not flow. Okay, and in fact, the wiring would be too heavy and would break actually. And I don't know if you realize that. So that's where cars are going. They do say with electric cars things are simpler, number one, but then we are loading a whole lot more things on it, right? So the big green thing, okay, I pressed it a little bit too fast. What is the big green thing? The big green thing is a company that develops so very much software that it just dwarfs everybody else. This is a little bit old, who knows? I mean, the race among the big ones, and you find out who the big ones are. Who knows what's behind that race and the war for talents for the development of software. We're going to visit that a bit. Okay, let me step back. So why all this software? Let me step back a moment to 2011. I'm going to recall a phrase that software is eating the world. Have you ever heard of that phrase before? Okay. Because the person who said it was American, so I understand that from Italy, they didn't hear him. But okay, that was Mark Andreessen. He started Netscape, the first browser company, and in 2011, we had the dot-com bust when everybody was going, startups were going bankrupt. I mean, big companies, less so, but they were under a lot of pressure. And at that time, Mark Andreessen was investing in, he was quite wealthy already, and became a VC, and he invested in a bunch of companies, and somebody made a comment as to what the hell is Mark Andreessen doing? Does he know what he's doing? So he wrote a very big article. I do have all references, so you can look them up. He wrote a very long article in the Wall Street Journal titled "Software is Eating the World," and he explains why he's doing all these things, what he's saying. So he's saying what? He's saying that the cost of starting up a business using software has gone down tremendously because of the technology that advancement at that time, because of the tools and the infrastructure that are deployed. All of a sudden, to start something is a whole lot less costly, and also bandwidth was just ramping up, so you can reach market around the globe like you never were able to before. And therefore, he predicted a huge economic boom based on software, and software was eating the world. That was his thesis. And actually, he was proven right. And what did he see then? So at that time, and he brought this up, at that time, Amazon, a couple of years before that, bought the online book sales of Borders. And Borders discussed and said, okay, who cares? Online book sales. Not strategic. Just sell to them. Okay? So, based on that incisive decision, a couple of years later, as Borders saw their store sales going down and eventually go out of business, Amazon saw that online. They didn't have anything else but online book sale at that time, just kept rising, right? So there you go. So software was already changing the world. Okay. Nice. So Netflix also happened at that time. So Netflix was looking forward as well. As you know, the model of Netflix from the beginning was to leverage high bandwidth to rent movies over the wire. Unfortunately, at that time, the bandwidth was not quite there, so they used to ship out CDs, right? Just a little bit ahead of the technology at that time. But in any case, even with that, they drove Blockbuster to bankruptcy. And the industry took notice, actually, at that time. And after that, Times Warner, I think, got jittery, and they bought AOL. That was a disaster move, but in hindsight, okay. But they made their move, okay, to counter that. But a lot more things happened. So, as you know, Kodak invented the digital photography, but didn't make a good business out of it, and went through very bad time and went bankrupt themselves. But a bunch of companies came up, Shutterfly, they're still around. I think Flickr is still around. They were bought by Yahoo at one time, Snapfish. Also, LinkedIn appeared at that time and moved on to completely disrupt the recruiting market, which is considerably all manual and all very fragmented. Yeah. The music business, so Pandora is still around. iTunes, as you know, with iTunes, Apple quickly became the #1 seller of music, overtaking Walmart even. So that was not, in hindsight, everything is clear, of course, and obvious, but at that time it was a new group, and Pandora and Spotify, and Spotify is still around and still very, very. In fact, talking about Agile, an extremely agile company as well from a development point of view. And here's Pixar. Pixar started out as a computer graphics company, and then eventually pivoted into making movies, and became so very successful. The way they did things, so much so that Disney took notice and bought Pixar. They knew without Pixar, they will become obsolete, completely irrelevant in that business. So they did that, and good for them. So many more things. PayPal and Square in the online payment business. Google, Groupon in direct marketing, etc., etc. And Skype and Twitter. Even presidents use Twitter now. So, okay. Even established companies are leveraging a lot of software. FedEx is basically a logistics network with delivery trucks around it. And Walmart themselves have also used e-commerce a lot. This is just very quickly here. These are the companies that Mark Andreessen invested in at that time. So investment, win all the time. So there are some, like Zynga here, but in any case, I think he called the shot pretty well. Okay, what did he explain? So at that time, he explained this. He himself, Mark Andreessen, started a company called Opsware at that time, and they were presumably the first true cloud business where they allowed their clients to deploy applications, internet applications through the cloud via their infrastructure, right? So this is well before anybody else, they did that. So he knows. So he said what? He said back in 2000, in the year 2000, for any company to deploy a basic internet application, the cost to do that would be $150,000 a month, just about. And in 2011, when he wrote his article, people can use Amazon at that time and run that for $1,500 a month, 100 times less, okay, for chunk change. Okay, so that's what he was talking about. Software is eating the world, so everything is moving on. So that's what he was saying, and he was quite correct on that whole at that time. Now, moving forward 5 more years, right, from 2011, we see this. Do you recognize this? I hope you do. Sorry, otherwise you've been paying too much out of your pocket. Okay, this is Uber. So Uber started the business of transportation, disrupting the taxi business here greatly. So what did they need to do? So it has gone further. So in order to do a business like that, to have an app where people call and get served for transportation, you need a number of things. Some e-commerce infrastructures, communication infrastructure. You need mapping infrastructure and applications, and payment and mail communication. But Uber did not have to develop any of those. It's ready to be used. So the way to do business is to rely on somebody else's core platforms and technologies so that you can focus on your own user experience. And that's what you need to do, okay? And that's what Uber did to great success, okay? Now, that's a stroke of genius. You may say, well, I can do the same thing. Well, you're right. So there are other people doing the same thing. So here in the US, there's Lyft. And if you have been to Southeast Asia, you will discover that in Southeast Asia, there's a company called Grab. It's a Singaporean company. They have gone so far that they were ahead of Uber and now have bought over Uber for Southeast Asia. There's no more Uber in Southeast Asia. It's merged into Grab now. Okay. So with these things, what happened? So the age of the end user experience has come, and they have choice. They have real-time status for their transportation, short wait, dynamic pricing. When there's a rush, then it goes up, and when it's free, it's lower prices, and services are always improving. So that's what they get, okay? As you can tell, there is no reason not to do it, and everybody is rushing to do it, okay? Now, I was in Vietnam. That's where I was born. I left as a child, but I came back this year also. And this is how things look there. You see the competition neck to neck, Uber and Grab, okay? And so it's the local caller. This is, you would call them and they come and you jump onto the back and they drive you to where you are. How come? Why? Okay. Well, there's a very good reason. This is the traffic in Ho Chi Minh City, in Saigon, okay? If you call a cab, that means a car, you'll be sitting there and you watch these motorcycles go past you, okay? And that's why they have these other services, and those things appear on the phone. Okay, so that's what you see, some local callers. Now, the other thing is this. This is a very interesting thing. It happens in Vietnam, it happens elsewhere as well. I think in some places in India and Indonesia as well. Here in the United States, I wonder why the taxi companies did not respond. But in Vietnam, they responded. They do have a digital software response. They came up with their own app, Vinasun. Okay, Vinasun is a local Vietnamese taxi company, and they came out with their own app, and it's exactly like Uber. You choose and you see the car coming, and in fact, actually, it's better in some ways, because these are professional drivers. They're not, your normal person driving on the side, so they know their streets. When they make estimates, it's right on, for example, right? And there are some places they can go faster because it's for taxis only and that sort of thing. It's it's an experience. So, and they do well. Look, this is not a complete set of data, but all the way through 2016, you see their revenue just keep ramping up. They were not bothered by Uber in any way. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's just another company. Okay, now, so more power to software. Let's do something else. Let's get to a different side of software. I'm going to ask you, out of all these faces, which is the real person and which is actually a synthetic, completely made up by a computer, right, by a processor. So let's start from the left. Do you think she's real?
No.
No. Very good. You've seen this before. How about the next one?
Yes. Partially maybe, but yeah.
No, not quite yet. Okay. How about the next guy?
Yeah, real.
Real? No. Next guy.
Real.
Oh, you guys are slow.
Oh, no.
Catch on to the habit here.
Okay.
So,
No.
that's what, no. So none of them, so they are all these faces were completely made up by an NVIDIA processor. Completely, okay? And you can't tell, there's no way you can tell. So, as you know, some folks here are very concerned about fake news and all these things. Well, they're coming on more and more, as you can tell, okay? It's fun. You can look up. I have the citations. When you see through the slides, you can go look them up on the web. There are a whole lot more of these things. Okay. So let me do another one. Screening test. What is this?
Cookie.
Okay, it's a muffin. Very good. How about this? How about this one? It's a chihuahua, okay? Okay, now, so this is the thing. So, the previous slide showed you different faces that computers can generate. This is different kinds of things that computer can detect. So nowadays they can detect, actually, and sometimes a whole lot better than human, okay? Actually, I mean, this is fun and game and all, but there are some serious things like mammograms, see who has cancer, who doesn't, and that's a whole lot more difficult and all that. But even mundane things like this, nowadays there are apps, and I do have an app actually. So I show you this because there is a lady, her name is Maria Yao, and she did the test and she published it, all the results she ran. So these are vision APIs, okay, vision services, vision APIs, right? That you can actually use them, okay. And she tested how well each one was performing in detecting different things, okay? And she published the results, so that's where I got it, okay? So you have the Clarify cloud side, the Google one, IBM is the next one, and Microsoft and Recognition. So, so there you go. Now, there's a whole lot of these things on the web. You can go look them up yourself and waste about an hour, okay? So if you want to get lost, you're welcome to it. Now, on the lower right side, okay, there's an app. You can download it yourself. It's called CamFind, okay? CamFind is published by the people who have the cloud side API. They themselves did that app and put it out there for free, okay, to illustrate what you can do. So I have it on my phone. I encourage you to download it. It's quite unbelievable. You just put that and you take a picture of anything, literally anything, and it will come back. It will find out what that is, and then it will come back and tell you where you can buy it. The focus here is where can you buy this thing and what is it? Okay, it does make mistakes, so that makes it fun, but it's incredibly accurate in a lot of ways. So I was visiting a priest last night, and he had a statue of a saint that is extremely rare, and true enough, it didn't guess correctly. So, but most times it's right on. Okay. Let me plow through this really quickly, and then we can have a break. Okay. So it's all. So I was talking about so far that software is a game everybody is getting into. I hope you got a flavor of that, right? What people are doing, what you yourself can do, your company. Actually, you can do a startup, and actually you can be a consumer, a user, and try out free apps or apps that are not that costly and all these things. Now, there's a very serious side to that as well, which is this. For companies that have bona fide businesses, they are going to be disrupted by all these things, as you can very well imagine now. So this is a survey that a company did on thousands of company leaders, executives, asking them how, do you recognize the need for your company to transform itself, okay? Because your business, your products, or your business model is fundamentally being challenged, okay? Now, a transformation, if you've ever gone through one, is extremely, extremely painful for everyone. So this is not a light question. And yet, I think something like 80-something% said that yes, they felt they need a transformation. They felt challenged, under pressure. Okay, who are disrupting them? These are negacorns. For folks in Italy, have you heard of the word unicorns?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay, I thought it was only a Silicon Valley hype. Okay, the hype has gone to Italy. Okay, I got that. Basically, unicorns are startups that get to $1 billion valuation. Okay, and megacorns to $10 billion valuation. That's pretty super hype. Okay, so who are those companies? Uber. Okay, we talked about Uber. That's essentially a software company. Made a huge software component, software strategy, all kinds of stuff in there. ANT Financial. That's another online payment in China. Financial services online. Didi Chunsing, the same. Xiaomi is devices, electronic devices. Airbnb is to rent rooms. Essentially, again, relying on software. Meituan Dianping, I don't know them. Okay, SpaceX is commercial rockets. Relying a lot on software. There are many more things than software, of course. Palantir is software. WeWork is shared space, running a lot of software once again. And Zhujiao, I don't know them. Consumer internet. So there you go. Software is everywhere. All these new startups fueled by software. That's how they play. They play by software and disrupting people who don't play by software. Just like Uber, and if your taxi company doesn't respond, you will be in dire strait. Here, when you go up the chain, S&P, the top 12 largest companies, largest capitalization in the world, in the S&P market, actually, who are they? Moving from 2000, right, and in the middle 2015, 15 years, and then 3 years more, so you see, for example, General Electric was the very largest company for the very highest capitalized company for a very, very long time, fell to number 8, and then disappeared from the top 12 altogether, okay? With their capitalization going down, if you notice that. So there's the ranking and then the capitalization. Look at ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil oil drives the economy, as you know. Okay, apparently not so much anymore. It keeps going down, right? From 2 to 4 to 11. Okay, with the capitalization going up a very slight bit, it's no longer in the heyday anymore. Okay. Walmart. So Walmart dropped in ranking, but they kept up a bit. They are investing very, very heavily. Walmart Connect is here. They're investing very, very heavily on e-commerce. They are determined to fight back catalog. Microsoft has gone up, as you can see, not just in ranking, but the evaluation a lot, quite a lot, like double, triple, if you look carefully, like double, okay? Facebook as well, Amazon, of course, and here, two companies that are Chinese companies that you have never, maybe have never heard of, some of you may have, okay. But with that, what is the biggest question of the day? Maybe I do this and then we take a break. What is the biggest question of the day, do you know, as we talk about this thing?
Software is incontrovertible.
Yes. What's going on right now in these past couple of days, this week, is the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. I don't know if you're aware of that. So, and what is the biggest question with Apple? Oh, okay, you're not investors, okay. The biggest question is, are they yet a trillion-dollar company? You never heard of that title? Okay. It's been floating around. You need to read the papers a little bit more. Okay. So Apple has skirted, not quite touched, trillion-dollar capitalization, but not quite make it. They would be the first if they did. And the question is, would Apple announce anything that would make them go over 1 trillion? And it did, okay, sadly so. Maybe if you all go out now and buy an iPhone, you will help them make it. Let's have a break. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about the Apple car better than Tesla?
I heard that.
That will give them, an edge, of course. David, and I have to give it to David. He has been teaching at UCSC, and so he knows not 3 minutes, but he can talk 30 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, no problems. So his topic is large-scale international project management. That's a great topic. It's amazing. So maybe let me just need that for my recording. So
Sure. Okay.
So
How many
you
project managers do we have here? How many project managers? Okay. How many project managers who are managing more than $20 million? Good. How many project managers who are managing in at least 4 countries? Huh. Only 3, 4 of you. Okay. What happens when it comes to managing a large-scale project? We're dealing with so many different risks: cultural, language, time. Slightest change may make our project go down drastically. So as a project managers, how do we manage all these changes? How do we make sure that we communicate with our peers? How do we manage different changes? How do we report? Hong told you there are many, many software applications, from Jira to Trello to God knows how many, just to keep the track of reporting. And that comes with, let's say, for instance, from Skype to Hangout to Google Docs to For me, as a project manager, what I want to do and make sure that my project meets the schedule, time, and scope of it. The three pillars of PMI, project management, in Agile way. Meaning that I have to make sure that we do iteratively, and then when we scale that throughout a larger company like Visa, how do we manage that? That's why we have Hub, that's why we have Amp, and that's what we do. Are you ready for Agile, our Italian friends? Are you ready to take Agile to Italy? Go Italy! Go Italy! Thank you.
Thank you, David. Very engaging perspective. Thank you so much. All right, and here is a kicker. From those 27 people from Italy, one of them is a professor, according to someone here. And wow, there you go, perfect, super. All right, his name is Federico, and this topic is super engaging. He's going to talk about agile and managerial perspective before and after a great crisis. Okay, great nugget. So, welcome, Federico.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry for two things. First of all, I received this invitation 8 minutes ago, and so I'm not sure to be very good. The second one is that we have to leave on behalf of our Italian friends. We have to say that in 5, 6, 7 minutes we have to go. Sorry once again. Well, I think that. I'm not a professional in Agile system, but I think it's very useful for at least three reasons. First of all, before crisis, we were used to consider projects in a long run perspective, and so we had a sort of period with a long run view about our projects. Now we live in uncertainty times, and so we can't believe in a so sure, so warranted perspective. The second one, in the management of human resources and financial resources too, we have to have an approach very different from the approach typical of the period before the Great Crisis. So that the economy before the crisis was a sort of sinusoidal line that has a positive trend, then a flat trend, then a descending trend, and so on. Now we have a sort of continuous stress because economy is a worldwide unique perspective, worldwide unique sort of body that links all together. Well, the third one thing, because the agile method is useful, I think, is the possibility to take decision in an uncertain perspective. Once again, I think that the world is never the world of before the Great Crisis. So it's a very big, very complex issue. But I think that Agile, in comparison with the classic project management, we can consider we are friends of Project Management Institute internationally, Rome chapter, and so on. But there is a different perspective, and after the long crisis, I think that Agile can help us to work better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Federico. All right, and I would like to thank all the people coming from Italy here, because I hear that you guys have a shuttle going back at 7:45, so people who are not coming from Italy, don't mind them going out in another couple minutes, but it's great to see all of you here. So, big round of applause. Thank you so much. And with that, we'd like to see what Hong has to offer us. Maybe he's going to talk about how the Apple is going to go into the $1 trillion market.
Where we were, so we were talking about the business results of software, right? Of the game of software. So we started out with, the game of software, why you need the software, because in the products and services that you have, more and more expectations about innovations and better services are there. And now, and on to how that game actually has a lot of financial consequences that are very, very, how would I say, very unforgiving in so many ways, right? So, and also very rewarding on the other hand. Like a company like Apple, who would have known they would become the first $1 trillion company? Well, not yet, but still. So with that said, do you here know FANG? Who knows FANG? Oh, you're not traders, okay. Nah, okay. You will soon know FANG, okay. So FANG, okay. The FANG companies are in red, and the S&P 500, which is sort of like the growth stocks, are in blue. And you see how the FANG have just completely outgrown the S&P 500. Okay. Who are they? They are Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Why do some people really know them well? If you are day traders, you will trade on those. If you are commodity traders, you will bet on those. There is a whole industry. There are whole industries of people in the financial sector trading FANGs in so many ways, okay? And they make I would say a ton of money. Some of them may lose a ton of money, who knows? But there is such a major activity now because these companies are so big, and not just so big, also very volatile, unlike the old days of the GMs that we saw and ExxonMobil. We are in the days of very volatile stocks, even when they are very big, okay? And now they are very big. So now you know your FANG, okay? As I mentioned, it's not what I cover, it's what you discover, so if you discover new things, that's so much better, okay? Now, the next thing is this. So why, in terms of business, this is something to know. McKinsey was looking at over 2,000 of the largest companies in the world in their database. They follow these companies, right, in terms of what's going on. This is so you know what's the game in business. What is the game in business? So they divide the companies into 5 quintiles, okay, in terms of what is called economic profit. That is profit after everything else, after all the costs and after tax, and also after the cost of capital. Okay. And what you notice here, let me see, is that the average here is very low. First of all, the average is very low. And the average companies, meaning if you take only the 3 in the middle, their economic profit is pretty much 0. That is, all the hard work, the competition, the planning, everybody in those companies, they do all these things for years and years and years for practically no profit. That's pretty steep, actually. And now, the reason why the average of everything is higher than just the average among those is because it takes the profit of the top guys, how much they make. Okay. So, yeah, so here, the majority in the middle makes almost no economic profit. The top ones take 90% of the profits in their industry. 90%. Okay. And they are 30 times more profitable, something like that. Now, another thing, I don't know if it's not showing up, but I do want to speak up to that. The other one is, if you look at only the top quintile, that is itself an exponential curve itself, meaning within the top performing companies, that the curve is exponential, meaning the higher up you go, it's very, very concentrated how profitable those companies are. And it goes, the story, this is a very good read. I would encourage you to look up that article and read it. It's free online. Markets tend to completely concentrate wealth at the top. Why? Because investors look at successful companies and invest in them. And now they have more power to go find even more. I'll give you an example. So Amazon, I think the company with the very lowest cost of capital is Amazon. So if you are Amazon, what would you do? You take all that money and do everything. You do robot, you do machine learning, you do anything because the capital is so cheap to you. And if you think you're a startup and you can beat them, well, it's very hard. The money that you get that is lent to you or whatever is much more expensive. So anything you do costs a whole lot more. So you're fighting with weight on your shoulders, right? So, something to remember. So, two things. Everybody's playing the software game now. The software game is a brutal game with consequences, second. And now we're talking about the skills and knowledge to play that game. Okay, what is it? So this is another McKinsey study, and they talk about, so they divided up companies that are high performing in software development, the middle ones, and the not laggard, I mean the ones that are less performing. Okay. And when they compare productivity, the high performing company are 3 times more productive than the other ones. Okay? Moving to how fast development throughput, how fast do they put something new out onto the market? It's 4 times. And how, in terms of quality, how much residual defects is left in the products when they launch it? 5 times less. So what does that mean? That means that the high-performing companies are working more cheaply because they're more productive. Faster, they put products out faster, okay? And they are higher quality products. How do you compete? This is a very, very major, if you ponder this for a minute, it will dawn on you, this is such a very drastic things to happen, okay, that you cannot afford to be low performing. Not at all. This is no joke, okay? So, and when you talk about productivity, development, throughput, and quality, it makes sense from a business point of view. Now, what are you talking about? You're talking about being agile, isn't it? For those of you who practice Agile, you recognize that right away. These guys are not talking Agile, they're talking about business consequences. And yet, it matches, I don't mean exactly, it matches pretty much with what Agile is talking about. Very important. So why is Agile so important and we need to learn something in the software industry? Because traditionally we have had incorrect assumptions. What are they? That the customer knows what they want. They don't. Okay. That developers know how to build what we need them to build. They don't really. And actually, I mean, not to be saying that they are bad, but increasingly, this is not true because you are going to increasingly what you are going to have on your team are what? UI designers and developers, and UI designers nowadays, and I have a card for everyone, are going to have increasingly augmented reality, bots in that, okay, and all kinds of stuff in there, right? Do you have a lot of people doing that? not now. And yet you have to do it. You cannot not have it, for example. Things like that. And then you have machine learning for your app to keep learning and adapt without you knowing what it needs to do. Otherwise, your app won't be as good as the competition. So, and also you assume that nothing will change along the way. If you develop for a year or 2 years, nothing will change along the way. Just like the space shuttle, right? It doesn't happen like that anymore. So reality is like this. This is a very classic picture. Even in the traditional way, we talked about this already. Now it's even more extreme. So when I say, I want to take my phone and put it over the card and get my information, do you understand what I'm saying? No, one person means one thing, another person means something completely different, another person means something completely different. Now, do you want to write 3 pages to explain what you mean? No, you can't. If you do that, you'll be so slow. The competition will come out with something good enough, and they will beat you already, right? So that's the challenge. Okay. So therefore, you need Agile. Agile helps the customer discover what they want by seeing something happen. They may say, I like it, but not so much. Next time, please change this. Yeah, they have an opportunity to do that. And for the developers to discover how to build things. I'm building it the way I know. And somebody mentioned there is a better way. You can have, I'm serious. I went to AWE, which is what Augmented World Expo last week. So you can have wayfinding, just like GPS, but indoors. And this company has it, purely on the accelerometers. There's no signal with anything. And there you go. And they open the API, just like I will mention. So you just need to use the API. So if a normal developer is in the classic sense, if I say, can you do that for me? They probably will say, no, this will take years, and that's true. But I'm not talking about years, I'm talking about go get that damn API and do it for me, yeah? So, and adapt as things change along the way. Before that API exists, well, you develop your thing, and all of a sudden it exists, so you stop what you're doing, you go get the API, right? When do you do that? So that's Agile, very important. Another thing that is really important is this. This is a little bit aged, but it's still true. Did you know that only 20% of features in products are used often or more? The rest of it is sometimes used, rarely used, or almost never used, 45%. And as a user, if you see a lot of those things, you get irritated, don't you? I mean, you get confused and irritated. Maybe you're not even aware of it, you're not conscious of it, but you are an unhappy camper. You know what I'm saying? So Agile, Scrum, even Scrum does this thing. They have a product owner, and what does the product owner do? The product owner has full mastery of the product backlog, right? Mm-hmm. You talk to me, you explain to me, you say, I want it. I said, okay, I put it in there, or maybe I don't put it in there, but okay, I put it in there, but I put it down here, Yeah. You need to manage that thing, right? Otherwise you have all kinds of junk. Okay. Have you seen this before, anybody? So this is classic. What happened is this. A lot of what we do, requirements are uncertain. You ask one person, they say one thing. You ask another person, they say another. Are they wrong? Nobody's wrong. Everybody's right. Okay, it's that complex. That's the complexity of the world we live in. Okay, number one. Number two, the technology used. Should I use, okay, nowadays the answer is pretty straightforward. Should it be an iPhone? Yeah. Should it be an Android? Yeah. Actually, let me ask you this. Should you have HoloLenses, Microsoft HoloLenses for virtual reality viewing? Okay, now obviously the answer is no for most projects, right? At some point it will become fuzzy. And at some point it will not be fuzzy anymore. You have to have it, right? Imagine that. So things like that happen, and therefore you get into a complex situation where it needs to be Agile. And actually, if you outsource, it's clearly not going to be a fixed price project. We like to have fixed price, but it's not going to be fixed price, no matter how you wish so, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So Agile is stepping in. Yes, this means when things are very complex, it's a research project, it's anarchy. In that case, you can also typically manage by carving out certain things that you can set goals and objectives and certain concrete steps and manage in an agile way. Not the whole thing, but some subset of it, and so that you can make progress. Okay. Now, what is agile? I just wanted to very explicitly say what agile is. Okay. Sometimes we mean it without saying it. So agile means two things: iterative and incremental. What does that mean? Iterative means you don't try to do everything up front to be right. What people call BDUF, right? Big design up front. BDUF. Have you heard of that? Okay. That's the traditional way. We have experts. They gather all the requirements. Now it's a complete requirement. Sign here. This is it. I agree with you. And then you design the whole thing. Some really big experts, right? And then you spend 3 years developing and all these things. The problem is, you will see the problem in a minute. And also, don't build it all at once. I'll give you an example of the risk, and we'll talk about risk in a minute. We were working with a company. We were trying to build a robot, okay? And we worked with a Chinese company, and they built a hovercraft, okay? You know what those are. You step on them, and depending how you lean, it will turn. So they make those, and we work with them to build, the robot, where things will move to our control. And so we learned what they did was they just built $3 million of hovercraft, put it in storage, in storage and waiting to ship the next season. Well, the UL just changed the code for hovercraft. And these hovercraft they built do not meet that new code. Okay, so they were studying how can they, retrofit, what can they do to dismantle and repurpose, and in the end they couldn't do anything. So basically it's $3 million down the drain right there, of no fault of any kind. Okay, so refrain from building all at once. Okay, so remember this. This comes from lean, right? Anything that you produce that is not going to be bought is waste. It is waste. Okay. The difference between waste and value is somebody bought and paid. Okay. Now look around. You'll see a lot of waste. Now, nobody's fault, but it happens. It happens if you don't pay attention. Okay. People say a lot of things about driving down costs. That is a very, how would I say, clumsy and lazy way of thinking. Driving down costs. If I want a Mercedes and you buy me a Chevy, I'm not going to be happy. You build me a Chevy, I'm not going to be happy. How do you cut costs on me on that? You know what I'm saying? Cut costs. What do you mean cut costs? Cut waste, yes. Waste, nobody needs them. And there's a lot of waste around. So the Japanese were doing that a long time ago, and that's lean thinking. Okay, so let's look at this. So if you build everything all at once, you just keep increasing costs and risk, just like the hovercraft company. What if nobody buys, right? But what if something happens? So your risk increases and your cost keeps increasing. You capture value only at the end. You see what I'm saying? That's what happens. Now, instead of that, if you do incrementally, what happens is you capture value, the green line, more often and earlier, okay? So, and in the end, you capture what you need from the value, but the risk goes way down. Every time you capture value, the risk is gone, right? So when you add them up, it's a whole lot less. You need to sit down and take time to think, and then you realize that. But in the normal, pressure of daily work, if you don't sit down and do that, you won't find it. That's why you need a coach who would say, You need to be agile, and agile means you do this, you don't do that. Because they learn that you need to do this. You know what I'm saying? It's not because they know how to program better than you, they don't. They shouldn't. They should spend their time studying this thing, okay? That's what it means. So that's what agile is. Yes, and if you launch partial products, if they can be used, that's better than anything else because you're already in the market. People remember you. Remember Netflix when they want to do, movie rental by wire, but they can, so they ship the CD. That's okay. It's not as good, but they're already in that business before anybody else. So you capture value up front faster. Problem with long schedule, with things that take a long time before being finished or released, is you have scope creep along the way and interruptions, right? That's what happens. It's life. Now, if you do shorter iterations like sprints, within the sprints, there's no scope creep. It's too short to add creep into it, right? And you won't be disrupted, likely, right? So then it's much more predictable for that matter, on top of it. Now, another thing to think about is this. When we talk about things, we tend to think about processes, right? Traditional project management or Agile, we talk about processes, and sometimes also about architecture of the product or the systems. Think about this. Have you heard of Conway Law? Conway Law is an observed law. It's not a law of math. Okay, it's not a logical law, but it's been observed, and ever since it's been stated, the observations has been confirmed over and over, which is what the way your organization is structured and the communication pattern within your organization dictates the architecture of your product. Imagine, and we tend to do what? We tend to organize in the back-end team, the middle-end team, the front-end team, and guess what? Every product that comes out has the back-end. It doesn't have to be. So some companies actually organize in product teams, not component teams, right? So watch out for that. That will just, you think you have processes and that will drive things? No, they don't actually drive as much as these other things. And yet, even that, the culture within your company is very, very hard to change. And it is what it is. Now, there are ways to change it and actually, so there are certain ceremonies and things like that to get people into a new culture. Okay. Enough said of that. What are the Agile methods most used? I'm not saying just use what's most used, use what's most adapted to your situation. But it's good to know, Scrum, 56%, but Scrum and Scrum hybrids are 84% of what people use when they do Agile, okay? So, meaning what? I'm saying that to be saying, if you start out and you don't know what to do, just use Scrum. Instead of wasting time trying to think too hard. Okay. Number one. Number two, a lot of companies now. So you've seen the picture. You got it. Many executives have seen it. They know they need to be Agile. Even if they don't know how, they know why. They know how so catastrophic it is for them to not be Agile, for their organization to not be Agile. So they want everybody to just get started and be Agile. Now, the problem with that is Scrum is just at the small team level, up to 9 people, or let's say 12, 15 people. That's not enough to turn out a big piece of software or something, right? And you saw how gigantic these things need to be. So in terms of scaling, the currently most popular way to scale Agile is with the framework called SAFe, and it's at 29%. So the State of Agile report this year came out this past April, said 29%. Last year was 28%, and previously it was 27%. It's just slowly going up. It's a major decision, as you know, for very large companies to do that. Previously, the most popular was Scrum, which is much fuzzier and freer, I guess. it was 72%, and then last year was 27%, just limited, and then went down much further to 19%, okay? I guess because people just need more guidance. That's my guess, okay? Now, otherwise, everything else just really pale. So the one that has a lot of Agile admirers is called Less, but that's 5%, it's barely 5%, and it's very hard to learn and more. Okay. So, but anyway, so I'm not trying to sell anything, but just looking at market data, you draw your own conclusion, and I mean, not just automatically, but think about it, see what makes sense. That's what's going on. Okay, so this is as much as I want to talk to you. So I want to leave this with you. So to be educated, there's a guy, you know, Chomsky, I mean, he's old, okay. But he said something that makes a lot of sense. When you learn something, what does it mean? It means that, not that you learn what I said and redo it and try to memorize. That is not learning, really. To be educated means to be in a position to inquire and create on the basis of resources available to you. And that's what I wanted to do with this session. That is, I presented data and the sources. You can go look them up. And actually, as you look them up, inevitably you will see other things that I didn't see, for that matter, and you will have other thoughts. And I really strongly encourage you to do that. I mean, the worst thing is that you'll be a clone of me. That would be very low value, actually. So I hope that I inspired you to go dig further and uncover new things, and actually, for that matter, share, right? So I want to do 2 plugs, actually. 2 plugs. One is this. So as I noted here, I'm with my friend David Bagnia here. We are setting up an outfit called SVAgile. And what we want to do is we create resources. I mean, right now it's in construction, of course, it's on the way. We would have resources, free resources for you, and we would have workshops and things like that, and gather people who are pursuing Agile. That's one thing. The other thing is, if you are interested in SAFE, I will be teaching at UCSC Extension. You can look it up and type, you can search it. July and August on Friday night, 6 to 9, for 5 weeks. So just to be immersed for some time and know exactly. So after that, you can just join the SAFE team and you know exactly what to do. So just 2 plugs, if that's of use to you, so that's a resource. What I did today was this. I passed this out. I have plenty more, actually. So let me explain what this is. I made one card with everything on it, okay? So you don't need to take notes. So in the back, okay, the top is, you scan that, you get the slide. You can either type on the browser or you scan this thing, you have the slides. Number 2, the courses, you find it. Number 3, you get the app. On the left-hand side is the iPhone app. On the right-hand side, you have the Android app. And you can play around with this thing. This is an AR, it's an augmented reality demo. So you'll see what it does. I let you explore and play with it. Yeah. Other than that, depending on the time left, I mean, I encourage any this point of dissensions, any debate, any question.
So are we gonna see the Apple hit $1 billion or $1 trillion? Do you have a plan for that?
So Anu said correctly, right? I mean, they are so close. Okay, and what do they have up their sleeve, right? I mean, certainly for you to go out, for us to go out and each buy another iPhone, which I'm very loath to do, because scratch that, I'm not gonna make that public. But if we all go out and buy an iPhone, that won't do it, okay? So, yeah, I did hear somebody who actually saw it, that they do have a car somewhere, and that car is better than the Tesla. So that may
lot of people have actually heard some car inside an Apple campus in Sunnyvale.
yeah.
So a lot of testing is going on, but no one knows what is it about.
But still, they still have a long way, right? They need to send it to space and then put it on internet.
Oh, well, look, to your point, right? I mean, if it's a long way for Apple, when Tesla started out, wasn't it a very, very long way, you know what I'm saying? The game has just started, it's barely started. On that note, I used to be talking about this topic in different places, in different ways, and I was citing this example, how disruption happened, right? Last year, another example, last year, Ford Motors, their CEO was a 25-year veteran of Ford. And the year before, what he just accomplished last year was he had a record profit year. And he brought Ford to emerging market where they will see a lot of growth. And they let him go after that, okay? And the reason was they saw the threat coming from Tesla, from Silicon Valley, from everything that's bubbling up. And they saw the needs for digital software and all these things, and this guy is certainly not that. And they thought they needed that, and he was let go to change it. And last week I saw a Ford car actually. It's not a real car. It's a test, R&D. It's not a commercial car with ultrasound, 2 lidars and things, and a very young Indian guy that they got from India actually a couple of months ago, expert on that, and they have a bunch of people working on that. So yeah, they are changing very fast. So they saw the writing on the wall, they saw the danger, and they jump on it. Companies saw the disruption and they jump on it. So that's another example. Yeah, so your question about Apple, I think that's absolutely correct. And the car market is gigantic, as you know. Anything else? No dissension?
It's great to see this topic that you're talking about here, and we're fortunate to have Jim sitting right there in the corner looking at it, and maybe he's just took a picture of this. So he is the program director for the project management as well as the Agile management at UC Berkeley Extension.
Oh.
So if you have any question about UC Berkeley courses, classes, the way you can get continued education from the UC Berkeley Extension, Jim is right here with us, and he's a regular participant here. So very fortunate to have you here, Jim.
By the way, I add to that this, right? Some people are blasé about it, but shouldn't actually, which is this. If you are in software and you're not doing Agile in some way, for example, Scrum, no matter how mundane it may sound now, I strongly encourage that you start jumping as soon as possible. The world is getting more complex, and you need to be more Agile, not less. And if you're not doing it, you better do something. And if you don't know what to do, then just do Scrum. Do something rather than nothing.
So what's your recommendation for those that are just starting out? Really late to start help, but I mean, just out of curiosity, start with Scrum first, or Lean, or there's so many disciplinaries.
If you are in software, I would say Scrum. There are some areas, I'm seeing more areas now coming up, for example, machine learning, right? Where actually the iterations are even faster, actually. It's actually, it's mind-boggling. It's actually even faster, and the teams are smaller, and it's even more agile than that. And it's not as formal on top of it. Now, if you're not used to anything, Scrum provides you minimal something, right? And it's good to start with that. And one very good thing in Scrum and Agile, always, there's something that people skip. It's called the retrospective at the end.
Yeah.
Retrospective means what? Means you go over what did we do well, how can we improve? The thing is this, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, if you keep improving, that's the name of the game. I tend to say this, think of it as a game, as a sport game, like football or soccer or something, or volleyball. Okay. Doesn't matter that you lose or you win. If you keep improving, you be in the game. You need to be in the game and you need to be improving. And the game is played agile, right? The coach cannot dictate everything for you. Nobody can tell you exactly how to play. You need to practice, you need, and be part of the team. So one thing that people tend to do, a lot managers, they get jumpy or whatever, one way or the other. Sometimes they have budget pressure, they get rid of teams and they restart. Well, that's just like, you know, if you have kids and they play soccer or something. At the beginning of every season, they're horrible, even good players, because the team is not there. And then towards the end of the season, they become good, and then you disband them again, right? Guess what? When companies disband teams, they just throw money out the window. That's really what happens. Think of teams. Yeah, that's the thing. Agile will get you to think teams naturally.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ang. It's been transformational for us to start thinking about, as Tim suggested, the business and how do we make things come together. So it's great to have you here tonight. Great.